You're listening to the 215th edition of the Bitachon podcast. We're studying together the passuk in Tehillim Chapter Tes, chapter 119, verse 9 of Psalms. It's good to trust in Hashem more so than to trust even in generous people. And as I'm saying, I'm thinking, a generous person means someone who does chesed, someone who's interested in kindness, which means that they are actually a vehicle for Hashem's light into the world. They're a vehicle for Hashem's kindness. Not to be taken lightly. Not to be unappreciated. But it's better to go to the source. Of course, sometimes Hashem sends His kindness through kind people. But still, it's better to go to the source of the kindness, which is Hashem Himself. He brings here from the Bina Le'itim, it's a good and appropriate thing to trust in Hashem with all of your strength, and to expect from Hashem an incredible tayelas. Something good is going to come out. Something awesome is going to happen. And we can speak about this not just in terms of the fact that it's better to trust in Hashem than to trust in a generous person, but also we can learn from the generous person what happens, the way that we feel when we trust in a generous person, the way that a person is treated when you trust in a generous person. What is the result? And we can multiply that manyfold when we talk about trusting in Hashem. When you trust in someone who's very generous, let's say the nation of Israel today trusted in President Donald Trump. Okay, so he's a very important person. He's a generous person. He took an incredible risk and an incredible cost to bomb the Fordo nuclear facility, right? So we trusted him, and he helped us out. What happens as a result of trusting? So you get a lot of honor. Look, America's on your side. Look, the great Donald Trump sent his B-2 bombers to help out the Jewish people, the people of Israel. What a great honor for us. And really, we could say it's a great honor for him too, to be on the side of right, on the side of goodness, right? So what you see is that when you trust in a chashuv person, an important person, and a generous person, so there's a certain honor that comes with it. This is the person upon whom I rely. If let's say you have a Rav, or a Rebbe, or an Admor, somebody who you rely upon for your halachic questions, for your hashkafic questions, so it's a covet to be associated with a particular Chasidus, let's say, to be associated with a certain Rebbe. It's an honor for me to say, my Rebbe was Rabbi Yechiel Per. It's an honor for me to say that. There's a certain honor that comes with depending on somebody. So we can deduce from here, we can make a kal v'chomer. Certainly it's true. If when I trust in my Rosh Yeshiva, Rabbi Per, I get a certain honor, I'm his student. Or a person trusts in a particular rich person, they get a certain honor, they're his protege. So, kal v'chomer, certainly, so much more certainly. If I'm a person who trusts in Hashem, so then my association, it's Hashem's name is called on me. That's what it really means, Hashem's name is called upon us. V'ro kol hameres kishem Hashem nikra alecha. Not MAGA is not called on us. It doesn't say MAGA on our hats. It says Yud-Kei Vav-Kei on our hats. It says Yud-Kei Vav-Kei on our foreheads, on our Beinei Necha, where we place the tefillin. So it's an incredible thing. Hashem's name is called upon us. That's the greatest honor that could be if we trust in Hashem. If we say, Bezrat Hashem, Yachad Nenatzech, we're saying, Bezrat Hashem, it's Hashem who's doing it for us. B'siyata Dishmai, it's God's divine assistance that's doing it for us. Maybe He's sending a messenger named Donald Trump. Maybe He's sending a different messenger, whatever it might be, in our personal lives. But the association is with Hashem. That's the greatest honor. It comes here in the note, Vayin Sham, Shehevi HaMedrash B'Bereishis Rabbah. See over there, he brings the Medrash in Bereishis Rabbah. Yeshua the Sifton Hashem Reb Levi Omar. Min Anisha Basar V'Dom At Lamed Anisha LaKadosh Baruch Hu. We can learn from the way that a human being speaks. He says, I. He speaks about himself as I. We'll see what it's talking about. Particular individual, particular human being. We can learn from that what it means when Hashem says I am Hashem. What happened with Yosef? Yosef came out of jail. He had been there for 12 years. He interpreted Paro's dream. He explained what's going on. He spoke about what's 7 bad years, 7 good years. He said what to do. He said to appoint somebody. And Paro says, I am Paro. And besides for me, no one else will lift their finger. No one else will be greater than you. You will have all the power in Egypt. He says, I am Paro. And because of his I am Paro, he's saying, I have the power to give you power. And Yosef was raised up and became who he became. He got all this honor. The Cheshiyah Ani Shel HaKadosh Baruch Hu, when the Ani of Hashem, when Hashem says, Ani Asisi V'Ani Asa, the passuk says that Hashem in the future is going to save Am Yisrael and is going to say, I created you and I carried you. I'm the one who gave you the power. Allah has kama v'chama. Ad kan. Certainly, that's going to be the case. So Paro raises up Yosef by saying, I am Paro, I'm the one who has the power. Hashem raises up Am Yisrael by saying, I am Hashem. I created you and I lifted you up. Upirish kavanas hamedrash v'zeh l'shoineh. Shanu l'meidim atzmus kim havtachasa yizbarach mimash anu roim b'basar v'dam. And the explanation here is, the explanation of this medrash is that we can see the essence of the way that Hashem fulfills His promise. From that, we can learn about the way that Hashem fulfills His promise from the way that a human being does the same. Pharaoh, who, he's a human being. Today he's alive, tomorrow he's dead. Right? We read these stories from thousands of years ago. How long did his power last? A couple of decades. Right? Paro had power, lost the power, he died. But nevertheless, through saying Ani Paro, I am Pharaoh, he raised up the honor of Yosef. Certainly, when it comes to Hashem's promise, when Hashem says, I promise you that I'm going to lift you up. I'm the one who has the power, and I'm going to give the power over to you. So that's certainly Hashem is forever. Because Baruch Hu, God was, He is, He will be. Hashem is transcendent. So because of that, the power that we're going to have, the power that we have access to, when we have Bitachon, that's something that's not limited. It's completely unlimited. And he mentions in the note here that there's something that he talked about way back. This is 80 podcasts ago. So that's like more than a year and a half ago. We spoke about on page Kuf Mem Ches, he brings on the Chavetz Chaim. I read it already, so I'm going to just quote it quickly to you. But he says that we find that when Lot, the nephew of Avram Avinu, Abraham's nephew Lot, took the angels into his house. They were about to save him, but he didn't know that yet. He took the angels appeared as people. He took them into his house. He fed them. He took care of them. And then the evil people of Sidon came in and they were banging on the door trying to get those guests, because in Sidon it was illegal to have guests. What's mine is mine, what's yours is yours. Never the twain shall meet. And Lot stands up for their safety. Not only does he stand up for the safety, he says, they came into my house. They came under my care and my protection. Here, take my own daughters. Do with them as you wish. That's what he said. Okay, he's extreme. But the fact that he invited them into his home meant that he's there to protect them. He'll do whatever he can. That no harm should come about. No harm should be caused to them. He'll give up something of his own. Hard to understand, but that's what it says. But what we learn from that, the lesson of it is that if we come under the Kairas Gag, the roof of Hashem, if we're in Hashem's house, as it were, if we're under His care and His protection, if that's where we place ourselves, and that's what we do through Bitachon, so the result is that Hashem guarantees that He's going to protect us. He guarantees that He's going to take care of us. So you see that you can understand from the way that human beings act. Of course, human beings were made b'tselem Elokim, which means that when we are acting in our highest way, if we're acting based on our conscience and our most spiritual selves, so you can see the way Hashem acts. If Pharaoh says, I am Pharaoh and I give you power, Hashem can say the same thing. I am Hashem and I give you power. And if Lot says, you came into my care and protection, I'm going to guarantee your safety, Hashem says the same thing. You came under my care and protection, I guarantee all good for you. Says the Mari Ibn Yichya, Yesh lefarish pashut, he says, I want to explain this very simply. What does it mean? Tov lachasos b'Hashem b'toich benedivim. She'akasiv vaymer shetoivu laha'adam lachasos b'Hashem tamid. Passuk is saying that it's good for a human being to always trust in Hashem. Kim lo yachaseh b'Hashem soiv liyos me'avodchim ba'adam benedivim. If a person does not place his faith in Hashem, so the ultimate result will be what I would say is a terrible outcome, and that is that the person will have to end up trusting in people. And trusting in people, doesn't say this at length, but we've seen it many times. Trusting in people involves embarrassment. It's embarrassing to trust in somebody. It's embarrassing to be dependent on another human being. And not only that, as we said towards the beginning of this year, there's no guarantees. There's no guarantees. So it's much better to start off. Don't even bother with the Nedivim. Start off and strengthen your trust in Hashem. And you won't be stuck with human beings. Brings here the Chassam Sefer. You need to understand the language of the passuk is inconsistent. It starts off saying chisayon, which means a certain type of trust, nestling under Hashem's wing. Then it ends up saying it's better to nestle in Hashem's wing than to trust, bitachon, in a human being, in a generous person. Why does it say it that way? Why doesn't it say it's better to nestle in Hashem's wing than to nestle in the protection of a human being? Or let it say it's better to trust in Hashem rather than to trust in a rich person. Chassam Sefer says another understanding of the difference between chisayon, nestling in Hashem's protection, versus bitachon. He says like this. Say I have a person who is a businessman and he needs money for a certain business venture. He doesn't have that money. He has a friend who's rich, who's a very kind person, and he does him favors. So he's able to get out of his worry. He has this friend, he's got a rich friend, the guy always does him favors. So he thinks to himself, if I ask him for the money, I'm sure he's going to give it to me. And he feels calm, feels relaxed. That's called chisayon. Why? It's not for sure. It's possible that the guy doesn't have any money right now. Maybe he doesn't have any liquid money. Maybe his money's all invested somewhere. Or maybe he needs the money for some business venture that he himself is doing. So there's no guarantee. Just because that guy always helps me doesn't mean that he's going to help me this time. So that's called chasaya. I really, really believe that he's going to help me. It's not for sure. There's an outside chance he might not be able to provide me with what I need right now. Better than this is a promise. Bitachon, the word bitachon comes from the word havtacha, which means a promise. So it means that I have a promise. If the guy promised me already he's going to lend me the money, so then he's calm, he's quiet, he's like really calm. Guy promised him the money. He's the rich guy, he's got the money, he promised me the money. So I feel much more calm. That's a different kind of calm, that's a different kind of trust. Nevertheless, it's still not for sure. There's no guarantees. The person is a person. Sometimes a person changed their mind. So you cannot be certain, absolutely certain, that he's going to give you the money that he promised you. He promised, you're calm, but it's still not absolutely guaranteed. But Hashem, who is good, and he does good, and he has compassion on his creations. So the chasoya, which means the fact that I'm not sure if Hashem is going to give it to me. I believe so. God always helps me. This one was always there for me. I don't know for sure. That is much better. That feeling is much greater than trusting completely, and as it were having a promise from a generous person. He says it's better to have that unsure, not knowing, even if you don't know for sure that Hashem is going to give it to you. That is much more guaranteed. There's much more of a guarantee in that case. Very interesting. We're talking about the feelings of a person's heart here. But he's saying that it's possible, or that we should try, or it makes sense that if I trust in a person because he's promised it to me, so my trusting in Hashem, even though there's no explicit promise, God has not ever spoke to me and said, I promise you're going to have everything that you need. But still, the chisayon in Hashem is more, it's more guaranteed than the promise of a regular human being. Even a generous one. And with that, so we could end there, but, there's a piece that we read 2 weeks ago in the Ahavas Chesed, which is really here at the end of the different explanations here of our passuk, and I'd like to go over it. We had said that when a person is judged after 120, or maybe even when we're judged every single day, right? There's a judgment that happens every day, every moment, as per the Gemara in Rosh Hashanah. So they're Malachei Rachamim, and they're called Nedivim. They're called generous ones. But still, nevertheless, despite their generosity and their compassion, there's a component of them of judgment. This is Chavetz Chaim speaking. When Hashem alone judges us, Rachamim Merubim. It's absolute compassion. About this, the passuk says, it's better to trust in Hashem than to trust in generous ones. When is Hashem himself the judge in this matter? When I do kindness for others, and the way I said it last time, based on the Chavetz Chaim himself, if I show I'm not makpid on others, I show that I don't get upset so much when people wrong me. I give it up. I'm moichel. I forgive people. I daven for good for them. I'm a shalom tov v'tachas ra. I pay them back good instead of evil, as Rabbi Saul Salanter used to do. So it awakens above that kindness above. And the result is that instead of being judged by the angels, the person is instead judged by Hashem himself. And Hashem is a much greater Rachamon. Kadosh Baruch Hu sees things much broader than an angel can see things. Hashem has the ability to find for us a limud chesed, a limud schus. Oyev chesed, person who loves HaKadosh Baruch Hu, is mateh towards chesed. He leans towards chesed. When we do kindness to others, when we are meichel people, Hashem is meichel us. So again, it's a path into Bitachon. It's another path in. It's a certain mindset. And the mindset is generosity. If I'm generous with others, HaKadosh Baruch Hu is generous with me. If I help out others, and I'm mevater to others, I give up my own hakpada, my own rightful, righteous sense, not getting what I deserve. If I give that up, then HaKadosh Baruch Hu as well is mevater. HaKadosh Baruch Hu forgives us. Hashem is merachim on us. And how much do we need His racham? How much do we need His compassion and mercy? Thank you so much for listening. We'll see you again next time.